You can sell hundreds of these digital tumbler wraps every single month on Etsy, and you don't even need a printer, inventory, or design experience. Let me show you how this actually works. The first thing you need to do is head over to mydesigns.io and either create an account or get logged in. I highly recommend that you do create a MyDesigns account. There's no easier way to do this right now, at least not that I'm aware of. So you can see here that I'm under the listings tab. First thing you need to do is create a collection, which you can do by clicking this home button next to listings and then just clicking add folder, and you can name it whatever you would like. As you can see, I'm in one called 20-ounce digital tumbler wraps. So from this point, once we get into our collection, I'm going to navigate under create and I'm going to select Dream AI. And what we're going to do is use Dream AI to actually generate some images for our tumbler wraps. Now there's quite a few different models you can select to do this, to generate your images with, and those are right here under recommended models. You can also see additional ones here. I am going to be using Recraft version 3 for this. The reason being is you can actually generate seamless patterns with Recraft version 3 by selecting under the style, illustration, seamless PNG. So we're going to do that. You can see I've already generated a few patterns ahead of time, but I will go ahead and just generate another one to show you guys how it works. So basically, once we get our model selected, our style, we can change the amount of images we want this to generate. I'm just going to leave it set to 2. And then for this example, creating these tumblers, we actually do want to generate them at a 1:1 aspect ratio. So now I'll go ahead and highlight this and just paste over it. And you can go ahead and read through the prompt if you would want, but it's essentially a prompt that is going to create a festive Christmas pattern. So I'm going to show you, all we have to do at this point once we put in the prompt is click Dream. And that will take just a second, and then I'll show you what these images look like. While they're generating, I do want to also show you it's really easy to scale your ideas to different things. So you can see there's one of our images. It should be showing us one more. Looks like it just finished. So that's a really good looking Christmas pattern, and it is perfectly seamless all the way around. But let's say we wanted some additional ideas. All I have to do is click this parallel prompts button. And then right here, I'm going to click this star that says scale the prompt. And under the instructions, I'm just going to say scale this to 5 different Christmas ideas. And then we'll just hit scale prompt. And you can see after this is done, now when I scroll through here, it's showing us all our additional prompts. Now, I'm not sure why it's adding the /n at the end of these ones, but we'll go ahead and just remove that. But you can see now, all I have to do is click Dream, increase the amount of credits it's going to cost, obviously, because now each one of these spaces here is generating a completely new prompt. So I'll go ahead and run that, and then I'll show you what these patterns look like when it finishes. Great, and that took about 10 seconds to finish generating all of these different patterns. And if I scroll through here, it looks like it gave us some really good designs from these, from just us asking it to scale the prompt. So now I'm going to go through here and I'm going to select a few of these. I'll do this off camera to save some time, but all I have to do is simply select all the images I want, and then we'll go to save to listings. We are actually going to upscale this too. So under upscale options, I'm going to select MD1, and we'll upscale these as we're saving them so that the quality is increased and ready to go directly on tumblers. All right, and once we click Save to Listings, all we have to do is go back to our Listings tab here, and as you can see, we now have all of our patterns ready to get to work on. Now the next step is to get these designs set up in the proper dimensions so that they perfectly fit on tumblers. So in order to do that, I'm going to select all 8 of these listings at the same time so that the actions I'm applying to one, I can apply to all. That's one of the powerful things at MyDesigns. From here, now that they're all selected, I'm going to go to our canvas system here. And then under templates, I'm going to select custom size, and I'm going to input the correct dimensions for a 20-ounce tumbler, and that is 2,790 by 2,460 pixels. So once we put that in, we'll just select create, and you'll now see that our canvas over here updated to be those exact dimensions. Now you can also see that we're working with 8 different listings, which were the 8 designs I showed you that I saved. So at this point, all we need to do is go to the top right corner and click Add Listing File. And then we're going to select that main file here, which is where we saved these designs from Dream AI. and then I'm going to click add to all. Now add to all is going to do it to all 8 of the canvases. And then all we have to do at this point is select this image. We're going to go to position, and we're going to fit to width and then fit to middle. So the reason we're doing that, fitting to width, is because this is perfectly seamless from side to side and top to bottom. But this top to bottom, you can see that the image goes slightly out of our canvas. That's not going to matter because on a tumbler, we don't need it to be seamless from top to bottom, just side to side. So once we apply that action here, you can see that these ones now need adjusted. But that was one of the things I was saying with MyDesigns. All we have to do is select this first image again, and we're going to right click it, and then we're just going to click this sync button. And what that did was apply the actions that I did to this one to every single one of them. So now you can see all 8 of these are perfectly optimized and ready for tumblers. At this point, all we have to do is click save in the top right corner. We're going to save them as PNGs, and I'm going to overwrite the main file here. So I'm going to select that as we don't need the original anymore, and then I'm just going to click save and yes, overwrite all files. And now that that job has completed, if I hover over the image here, you can now see the dimensions on these. They're all 2790 by 2460 pixels, which is absolutely perfect. So at this point, we're ready to create some mockups for these digital listings. So I'm going to go ahead and go to mockups here. Once again, make sure you have all the listings selected that you want these to apply to. So we'll select mockups, image mockups. And I've actually created a profile ahead of time. What a profile is basically just a set of mockups that I already know I want. So I'm going to click load profile up here, and you'll see 20-ounce digital tumbler wraps. This is saved under private, but there are also public profiles that have the same ones. So what this profile is going to do is not only generate our mockups for us, but if I scroll all the way over here to one of these mockups at the top, you can see that we're also creating a actual tapered file. I believe that this one is just showing that there's a tapered file as a mockup, but this one right here actually creates our tapered file from our straight image. So you can see I have this one default map to save to our tapered file slot, which you can name these slots whatever you want. I named it tapered file so that we wouldn't get confused, but that's right there. All I have to do at this point now is click generate mockups. That'll take just a second, and then I'll show you what those look like. All right, it took about 20 seconds for our mockups generator to generate all of those for all 8 of these listings. As you can see, they're all filled in down here. I will switch to a grid view so that we can see these a little bit better. And there's one thing I didn't point out during the mockup process that is very important. As you can see, all of these mockups, if we hover over them, they are JPEG files. And that's what mockups should be typically, because they're smaller file types. But when we're creating this tapered file, if I hover over this one, you can see it's a PNG. And I had changed the export type to be a PNG instead of a JPEG for only this specific one when we generated it. And the reason it has to be that way is you can see this taper on this file. If it is saved as a JPEG, JPEGs cannot have a transparent background, which this does. So basically, if you saved it as a JPEG, it will fill that gap in as white, and you don't want that. So I figured that I better point that out to make sure you export this specific one as a PNG. But now we can kind of just go through these mockups. So this is just a mockups that's showcasing, hey, this has a straight file in it. And then the other one is saying, hey, here's your tapered file as well. So it's showcasing that we're selling both of those on our listing. Now these are the actual mockups that show our designs on the tumblers. And I'll just go through a few of these so you can kind of see. These mockups are really good looking, and it really shows our designs, helps them pop out, which is in turn going to help you get sales. So now that we've generated our tapered file and our mockups, the next step is to get some data in here. And we do have a really cool feature at MyDesigns called Vision AI. What it does essentially is scans your image and then generates data. It's been trained on best-selling Etsy data, so it generates your data based on the image it's scanning and how it's been trained. So all we need to do is select all 8 of these listings, click Vision AI here, which is this eye icon. The input file slot is the slot that basically we're giving to it to scan, which we can change this to be an actual mock-up too if we would like, so that it's showcasing the tumblers. Under product type, I'm going to deselect t-shirt, and I'm actually going to select digital. You can select tumbler here as well, but since we're not selling a physical tumbler, it's just the digital wrap. I think digital does a better job. Now, we're also going to just leave all of these on the recommended model, as well as the platform. Etsy is what we're publishing to. But we're going to go to the bottom here, and I like to select custom instructions. I feel like if you give it a little more details to go on, it does a better job. So under custom instructions, I'm going to say this is a digital file being sold as a tumbler wrap. And we're actually probably going to say this is a digital PNG file so that it specifies the type as well. And then I'm just going to say, please include this in the data. And then we'll click generate listing data, and yes, run Vision AI, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. All right, that is now complete. And as you can see, just based off what I'm initially looking at, it seems like we got some really good keywords in there for all of these designs. I'm not going to go through everything and make adjustments, but what I like to tell people is Vision AI gets you about 85 to 90% of the way there. But I always recommend you go through and switch out some keywords, make sure that there's some things in there that or there aren't some things in there, excuse me, that you don't want to be. But since this is just an example, we're going to go to the next step. We have our actual print files we're selling. We have our mock-ups. We have our data done. So the next step is to go through the publishing process. Once again, make sure you have everything selected that you want to publish to Etsy. Then we're going to go to the top right corner and select publish. And we're going to go down to the bottom under digital and then select Etsy. And we're actually going to select files to sell, not convert and sell, as we already created the files our customer is going to receive. So we're going to select that. And right here, this is just where we're going to select the files we want the customer to be able to download. So that's going to be this main file and this tapered file that we have created. So from here, we can go to the next step. And now this is where we select the mockups that we want to be published to our listing. And it looks like it by default already selected them all. So we're going to go ahead and just go to the next step. Well, actually, excuse me. Really quickly, you can drag and drop these mockups here to basically change which one's going to be your primary. They will show in this exact order. I don't think it's a good idea to show our primary as a straight file. We want them to actually see a tumbler. So I'm going to go through. This one looks like it showcases our design the best. So I'll go ahead and just move that one there. Put one of these single with the hand showing it as our second one. And then we can showcase that we have both the file types. So drag those in whatever order you would like to. And then we're going to go to the next step. We already have our data done, but this is just basically another option for you to be able to do this here. But we do want to scroll to the bottom and actually change the price here. So I typically sell these for somewhere around $3.99. Or excuse me, not two, $3.99, and then we're going to leave the quantity as $9.99. That's the max that Etsy allows. I always put it as my max. Now this price point as well, I sell it at $3.99 with the intention of running a 50% off discount. So really they're typically going to be about $1.98. So I'm going to click apply changes in bulk, and that should apply the price changes to all of our listings. If you see up here, you can click this arrow to see the different listings that we're working with and the price adjusted and quantity adjusted for all of them. So now we're going to go to the next step. This is the final step of the digital publishing process. It basically just gives us one last look of our listing before we publish it. The title's here at the top, shows our price, quantity, description, and then tags are circled in blue. If you're working with multiple shops, you can change that here. We just have our test shop here that we're going to be publishing to. So at this point, I'll just click publish, and then I will jump over to our Etsy shop and show you what these look like there. We're now over on our Etsy shop, and we are under the shop manager. From here, we want to navigate to the listings tab. And then everything that's published through MyDesigns will always go to your draft folder. So under listing status, just select draft. You'll see right here are our 8 beautiful tumbler wraps ready to be sold. At this point, all we would have to do is simply select them all, click publish, pay the 20-cent listing fee, and then publish again, and they are live on our Etsy shop. If you're ready to start selling digital tumbler wraps without printing or inventory, just head over to mydesigns.io. It's free to try, and it's built exactly for Etsy sellers just like you.